us, Josh, Poloha, and Seth Wannemacher and the CavsCast boys have been talking to you guys. We talked to you guys NBA draft night with live reactions, and somehow it was 4 weeks ago. Time's flying. I mean, I can't believe it's almost August. We're in the dog days of summer. There was literally not a single sports game on tonight from the Big Four, which is the only day of the year with not a single sports game on, which is weird as it is. But yeah, dog days of summer. CavsCast, we're back. Waiting for Next Year podcast, brought to you by the Evergreen Podcast Network. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Seth, how you doing? You are a married man now. I know I saw you just before your wedding day, which is that's in the story in itself. But how are you? How are things? How's the last 4 weeks been treating you?
Yeah, incredible. Coming fresh off the honeymoon. I had a job change in there, so I'm trying to sandwich in as many possible life changes as can be the past few weeks. No stress at all. But it was fantastic seeing you literally on the party bus, like on my wedding day at one of, at least I know my favorite watering hole. I'm assuming one of yours as well. We'll check in with them if they want to sell some ads on here, but a fantastic bar in Tremont. It was fantastic seeing you that morning, and I'm excited. Like you said, dog days. So, but we got stuff to talk about per usual. Like I'm excited to get into this, and there's a lot that happened. We got to catch up on the past few weeks, and then there's some stuff coming up we gotta hit on. So I'm very happy, ready to go with you, and ready to talk some Cavs.
Before we go any further, you said it in the morning. I promise you, Seth and I were not at the Tremont bar in the morning. It was the afternoon, it was just before Guardians game. But backstory, I was just walking to the bar. My brother lives in Tremont, so we go out in Tremont and then go to the Guardians games all the time. And I was like, all right, there's a wedding party. A wedding party just got out of that party bus. There's absolutely no chance that is Seth. So I walk into the bar, boom, Seth Wannemacher. I was like, holy cow. But yeah, it was crazy. I didn't even have words. I was like, holy cow, what are the chances of this? Same exact time we got to the bar. First things first, I guess we'll start off with the hottest topic of the week for the Cavs, the new jerseys. The original, nothing really, I wouldn't say unique, but nothing really special about them because they don't have any trim or anything. I like them. I know a lot of people don't like them. I know a lot of people do like them. What were your first thoughts when you saw them at 10 a.m.? Was it yesterday, the day before, whatever day it was? Tuesday. Yeah, it's Wednesday, so it's Tuesday. No, it's Monday. Okay, I'm way off. But what was your first reaction? And rank them from 1 to 3: white, wine, and black.
Love it. I think the Cavs did a good job giving us some sneak peeks. They gave us some player reactions over the weekend, and then they kind of gave us that blackish photo overlooking like the Las Vegas fountain. I think for me, it's like an 8 out of 10. I really enjoy them. I already knew what I was going to like, but the whites are just unbelievably clean. Like I'm not a huge jersey guy. I'm not usually one to like buy a bunch of jerseys, but the whites are so good. I like the whites so much that I might have to take a flyer on something. Maybe as a Adrunas Ilgauskas, like retro white jersey or something like that. The whites are clean, and it's like it's the V. It's that blue and orange, kind of the ties to that old logo in the 80s and 90s. That V just looks so pure, and I just love the simplicity of the white. It's just such a fresh, clean look. I'm hoping that's what they're rocking most home games. Absolutely love the white. So my rank would be white by a healthy margin, number one. The second, I do like the black as well. I'm excited to see the black in person. I think that one has the most going on, so I'm kind of eager to see what that one looks like on the players in person. And then lastly, the wine. To be candid, the wine doesn't do a ton for me. It looks a little bit basic. However, I will say I really like the shorts on all three jerseys. I think I've seen some people refer to these jerseys as kind of boring or whatever. I think they kind of pop. Like the fact that there's some like big logos on the shorts, I think there's a lot going on personally. I think it looks pretty great. And yeah, just, a little round of applause. I think the Cavs did a great job. I'm excited to just get some merch now. Like I haven't jived with a couple of the past Cavalier logos, the Sword, not so much. And this one really feels good. So man, I love it. Right back at you. What would you think? And what's your ranking, Josh?
I completely agree with you. The Hoop V, it's just something about, I know it's different from like the throwback Hoop V, but there's just something about that Hoop V that like, it would be hard. I know a lot of people disagree with a lot of like, if you have a jersey, it could be the coolest jersey in the history of sports. There'll be at least a percentage of people that don't like it. It just is what it is. So, but it will be hard to find someone that doesn't like that Hoop V. I just wish like you said, that white jersey, I love it. It's clean. I'm not a jersey guy either, and I really wish I could buy a white jersey, but my luck is I'd probably like go to a game wearing that white jersey and have nachos and spill nacho cheese right down it. So then instead of it being like a red Cavs, it would be like a red mixed with a yellow, or my bad, wine. It would be a wine mixed with like some yellow nacho cheese. So I don't think I can trust. I mean, I can't trust myself with white shoes, let alone a white freaking jersey. But the one thing I wish they would have done, and like you said, I like the shorts as well, but I know they used the C on the shorts for the wine and white jerseys. I wish for the white ones they would have used something incorporating the Hoop V again on the side of the shorts. But then again, I get that they probably wanted to have the same thing on their white and wine jersey, so I guess that makes sense. And then the black jersey, like you said, I think it will look a lot better on the players. I don't mind it. That C in the middle is a big C. The one question I have, and I know other people brought up, I'm surprised that they use the number 35. I know someone said, oh, well, that's Kevin Durant's future number. But Isaac Okoro, you're really going to feature Isaac Okoro's number over Evan Mobley? Because you have Darius Garland in the white, Jared Allen in wine. It's something little, but I just thought it was interesting that they use 35. But yeah, like you said, very simple. I know a lot of people are mad that they don't have any trim on them. I don't mind it. It's just when the Cavs are winning 50 games this year, knock on wood, no one's going to care what they're wearing on the freaking court. As long as it's a jersey that says Cleveland or Cavs, it could be the ugliest jersey in the world. Who cares if they're winning basketball games, right? But yeah, I like it. Daniel Arsham, the guy, the artist that created this, the designer, well done. I personally think they hit it out of the park. I know they're super simple jerseys, but that Hoop V in that white jersey, man, like you said, I hope they wear them at least every home game. Well, I guess not every home game, but the majority of home games, maybe some away games, maybe in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know. I'm just dreaming out here. But yeah, the jerseys, you said 8 out of 10. I'd give it an 8 out of 10 as well. You couldn't really do much better than that. And I know Tom Valentino mentioned it. He is one, he talks on a podcast here. He has a podcast, the Nail in the Coffin podcast on the Waiting for Next Year community podcast network. He said that graphic designers making their own jersey templates kind of ruins like the jersey appeal, because like you see some of those templates and you're like, I really like that one. And then if the jerseys come out and they're not like that one that you saw, it ruins it for you. So I kind of agree with that too. If there was no such thing as like jersey templates from graphic designers, just people on Twitter, I think a lot more people would have liked these jerseys than previously.
It's funny you mentioned Eastern Conference Finals. So that's exactly what Darius Garland said on the Varsity House podcast I listened to this morning. Varsity House podcast by Sean Crawford. Darius Garland never does really interviews, doesn't really do podcasts. He was on this morning and said his goal is for the team to make the Eastern Conference Finals this upcoming year. So I had to just tie that in real quick. And last piece from me on the jerseys, the one thing that I saw, so yeah, I love the jerseys. I'm excited to rock some stuff. I like the hats. I think I'm a little more eager to buy now with the V and the swish. The one thing I saw that I think was a pretty good critique that I kind of agreed with was on the white jersey. So white is, again, by far my favorite. The Cliffs logo, so who has sponsorship deal now with the Cavs and Rocket Mortgage. I did see an interesting thought, and I kind of liked it. So the Cliffs logo is gold on the wine and the black, but on the white jersey, it's actually the Cliffs actual logo, which I think is like a combo of green and blue. And I saw a mock-up if that Cliffs logo was gold on white, and I thought it just looked absolutely clean. So I'm nitpicking, but I thought that was one possible improvement I thought looked kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't know like what goes into sponsorships, obviously, but I think I saw somewhere that there was no reason for Cliffs to change that logo color because it's a white jersey. Like I said, I don't really know what goes into sponsorships and the millions of dollars that Cliffs is giving the Cavs and whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. Adding more gold to that jersey would be perfect because it needs more gold. You can never be what was when they brought out the rebrand, what was it like? the gold is gold, or no, that's orange is oranger for the Browns. I forget what it was, but it was something about gold.
Yeah,
but you can never have too much gold in those jerseys.
And that's just like, I guess that's like the overall point to me is the gold just looks so much better than like that nacho cheese yellow that they had. Like the gold just looks so much better. It just overall, like they didn't, but they could have honestly made the jerseys like as good, even a little bit worse. And I would have liked them more just because of, that major color change with the gold. So the fact that they made the jerseys, what I think better, plus made a great, change out with that nice gold color now. Yeah. Awesome job by the Cavs.
I completely agree. Yeah. I mean, anything would have probably been better than the previous jerseys, but the fact that maybe they didn't hit this, maybe it wasn't a grand slam, but I'd call it a 450-foot home run, 2-run homer. Because like I said, I mean, I know not a lot of people. There's more people that like them than don't like them, but yeah, it's one thing like to look at them in pictures. I think they're going to look a lot better on the court and on players too. So like for those of you that do not like them, just wait until the season, maybe the preseason if they wear them. I don't know if they wear their jersey. I'm assuming they won't wear those jerseys in preseason, but who knows? But yeah, I like them. I think they hit it out of the park. Well done, Cavs, all around. Especially with that, like I know that jersey reveal, like people try to like use different color backgrounds to figure it out. It was a cool lead up to a jersey thing, and they actually did it right. It wasn't like a huge lead up and then a huge letdown. So I'm fine with that.
Yeah, very strategic. Just a couple tweets over the weekend of like Myles Garrett's reaction, Garland's reaction, Mobley smiling, and Allen. It was pretty cool. All in all,
yeah. Mobley smiling says a lot, by the way. Mobley can like go for 30, 10, and 10, and his face would be like the straightest face ever. So the fact that you got a little bit of a smirk is a big deal.
Yep. Oh, are you talking about the rookie Mobley? I'm sorry. That was just like a perfect lead in to who the Cavs got in the summer league transition, right?
We're gonna talk Isaiah Mobley first. I'm fine with whatever. But no, that is perfect lead in the summer league. You can lead this one.
Absolutely. So I know you got to be a fan, I think, to watch the summer league. That's what I like about like NBA Twitter right now. And anyone that's talking Cavs right now, this time of year, is like a legit fan. If you're sitting down watching summer league at like a couple of their games were at 5:00 Eastern, a couple of them were later at night. You got like true like Warrior fans out there breaking down guys that are never going to play in the league for the most part. So I love talking about summer league because you got some real deal fans out there. Obviously, there's a number 14 pick, but just since we talked about Mobley, maybe we can start on him. And Josh, if it's okay, I'll kick it over to you first, just on your general reaction to how it looked, and then I'd love to digest him a little bit and talk through it.
First things first, when it comes to summer league, my favorite is when a player looks really good. It could translate to the NBA, but when a player looks really bad, well, it's just summer league, right? It's like Keegan Murray, who looked really good, by the way, for the Kings. Everyone's like, oh, wow, he's a be something. But then if like Johnny Davis from Wisconsin, I can't even remember who drafted him. I forget who drafted him, but he struggled all summer league. So people are like, well, it's just summer league for Johnny Davis. But for Keegan Murray, they're like, oh, man, this kid's going to be a star. That's one of my favorite things about summer league. But back to Isaiah Mobley. It's worth remembering that he is not Evan Mobley, his younger brother. He will very, very, very likely never be Evan, his younger brother. And there's a reason why he's on a 2-way contract. And there's a reason why he didn't fall in the draft, but he went in the 40s. I mean, it is what it is. So hopefully, I think Isaiah Mobley, at times it seemed like the game was like too big for him, too fast for him. He needs to develop a 3-point shot if he wants to be an NBA player. That's for sure. But yeah, I think playing with the Charge, obviously it's the G League, so I think it will do really well for his development. And just we can't expect too big of things from a guy that was picked in the 40s. I mean, it's as simple as that. But yeah, if he wants to be an NBA player, he has to develop a better, more consistent 3-point shot. It seemed like that little drop off from college 3-point line to NBA 3-point line really. There's a small sample size of this summer league. I think he only made like 2 or 3 threes out of like 15 or so. But I mean, like I said, it's a development project. There's a reason why the Cavs drafted him and then put him on one of their two-way contracts, along with RJ Nembhard, who we will also discuss here in a little bit. But yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with it. I'm excited to see what he can do with the Chargers this season.
Yeah, the whole Cavaliers draft night was really interesting. I think going into it, we thought there's no way they pick more than 2 guys, at the most 3. Then they end up picking 4, and I think it was really interesting. So some analysts, had Mobley like the 70th best player in the draft, or the 80th best player. So he was kind of all over that second round to top 100, somewhere in there. And I think one of the big benefits to drafting him this year is going to be, him accepting the role of a 2-way. Not all second round picks, high second round picks at that, would have been gung ho on saying, "Yep, I'm cool with going on a 2-way, bouncing up and down between the Cleveland Charge and the Cavs." But luckily, they know what kind of guy they're getting in him, and he's just like Evan, soft spoken guy. Their dad is a coach at USC, and just all around sounds like great guys. And he's had nothing but great things to say about the Cavs. And obviously he's been able to establish a rapport with quite a few of the players. And he even had a quote in a Athletic article that Kelsey Russo wrote about how everyone in Cleveland just roots for each other and they're so selfless. And he thinks that's pretty cool. So just a good culture guy. But yeah, Josh, I 100% agree with you. I'll just say I wasn't overly impressed with what I saw. However, what can you expect off of a guy that you selected 40? So yeah, I thought defensively he didn't have as much of an impact at times as I was really hoping for. He didn't look as big as how I thought he might look. However, he did look good doing a little bit of playmaking. I thought he looked comfortable with the ball in his hands. His shot was bad, just to be candid. He airballed quite a few shots. It didn't look great, but he just needs reps. To your point, I think you're right on there. Just get him with the Charge, get him going. And I think like his best case scenario is he's a decent playmaking big man. And just hope he gets stronger, fills out, becomes more of a defensive presence. And as you said, if he can become a little bit of a stretch on, man, that'd be gravy. But I think I'll just say this: it's not a bad thing to draft a potential future star's brother, and just the fact that they're going to be in there together, I think it was a smart move by the Cavs. And it's not like this guy is pure charity. He's got a shot. He's just got to get a lot better, over the next year or two.
And it's pretty cool that the Charge are now in Cleveland as well, rather than Canton. I'm sure that means Evan and Isaiah can do a lot of work together. I mean, probably live. I'm assuming they'd probably live together, maybe save a dime or two. Who knows? I don't know how professional athletes do that. So, but yeah, I think just development's key. If he didn't have the last name Mobley, I think expectations would be a lot lower on him. So just always remember that his last name really doesn't matter, besides the fact that he's Evan's brother. But yeah, I'm surprised we talked about Isaiah Mobley first, but I am completely down to move on to the number 14 pick, Ochai Agbaji, who, man, I mean, he turned some heads this summer and during Summer League. Like I said, it's always important. Grain of salt, it's Summer League, but it wasn't about the things that, like his points. It was about the way that he got his points, I guess. I know I tweeted out a few video clips and purposely had the pre-shot movements and stuff. The way he moves off ball is what has me very, very, very excited for what he can bring in the Cavs this season and beyond.
Yeah, you're 100% right. The difficulty of shots that he took, they were not easy. I mean, everyone was kind of keying in on him. And everyone knows when you're playing the Cavs in Summer League, the goal, probably goal number one is don't get hurt. No one get hurt. Goal number 2 is we want to put Agbaji in spots to show what he can do. And man, he was shooting off the run. He was creating a little bit. It was really exciting. And to your point, the way that he scored, you can envision how he would score with better players around him, with Darius Garland setting him up, with Karis LeVert driving in addition to him in the corner, with Evan Mobley, finding him. I think it was really encouraging. And if you listened to us a few weeks ago, I wasn't sure what I thought about the pick at that point based off of some guys that were still on the floor. Not to say that Summer League completely changed his minds, but the way that he scored, you can now envision him scoring in the NBA with better players, getting him in better spots, because he was doing it in a pretty difficult way in summer league. He was going off the dribble and moving from like left to right and shooting. It was encouraging. So man, I'm excited to see what he did, and if he can be an actual rotation type player this year. I mean, the options the Cavs have with with 2 through 4 spots really interesting. So absolutely encouraged, and man, that was some good ball that he played in summer league.
Yeah, and like you said, whether it's like down screens or just coming off a screen or just his movement off the ball. I mean, even when he shot I think 38% from 3 during summer league, but even if he's not making shots, that movement off the ball distracts the defense, even if it's just one player on the defense, enough for open up the floor for Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Kevin Love, Darius Garland, Karis LeVert. I mean, the list goes on. It's just like the way that he was scoring. I'm excited about it because even if he's not scoring or even if he's having an off night when he is on the court, that'll distract the defense enough to help out the other 4 players on the court, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's why I'm super excited about OJ. I know it's just summer league. I don't want to get too excited, but it's just the way that he went about his off-ball movement and to get open and get shots and to get threes and that smooth stroke. I can't wait to see what he does in a real NBA game when he has Darius Garland and Kevin Love and Jared Allen, Evan Mobley and Karis LeVert and Isaac Okoro and all those guys as teammates, rather than guys that will play in Australia or be in the G League or possibly be in the NBA. And I guess, I mean, are we done talking Ochai? Because I just talked about Australia. We have to talk about this guy, right? Isaiah Mobley, Ochai. It seemed like the biggest topic besides Ochai during the Cavs Summer League was Luke Travers, the mullet. I can't wait. If he ever makes the Cavs team, I cannot wait to see the shirts that are created for this man. But Luke Travers, man, he was the Cavs' last pick. I forget what number it was, like 56 maybe?
He was late, 56. I think you're right there. Yep.
But I know he's already confirmed to go back to Australia. He was more of a draft and stash player. But man, I mean, he still needs to develop a shot. Still needs to develop some of his offensive game. But I think the first and summer league game, he had like 5 or 6 blocks. And plus the mullet. I mean, he can have zeros. He can have zeros across the board. I can watch that mullet play all day.
Yeah, he's going back to, I think they're called the Perth Wildcats in the NBL. But man, he was impressive. Like he's a big kid, and just his feel for the game. I mean, he stuck out to me right away. I think, the first game he was a monster defensively. Oh, I appreciate Derpy Gaming telling us, I told you all Ochai was the pick. So that's Derpy going for a victory lap right there. Back to Luke Travers though, the guy who got look comparisons to the one guy in Stranger Things, season 3, the one scary guy in Stranger Things, as well as a little bit of Larry Bird in there too. So, but man, I was thoroughly impressed with, he was just in command. He's not fast. He's not physical. He can't really shoot yet, but he was like a very, 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 very poor man's, like, kind of what we needed last year in terms of a point forward, a guy who makes the right decisions, who can play make a little bit. His feel for the game was just incredible. So he's a long ways away. He's going to be overseas for at least 1 year, if not many more. If he can develop a shot though, he had that kind of feel where he threw some incredible passes, and it's something that not a lot of big guys can do. So I can't wait to, this is the first time I'm going to be watching some NBL highlights just to see Luke Travers. I'm excited about it.
Seth's YouTube searches during NBL season will be Luke Travers game highlights. Luke Travers game highlights.
The algorithms are going to be all messed up. That's all right.
Speaking of, that could be a good way to make some money though, if you somehow find NBL stream and just turn it into Luke Travers highlights on YouTube. Although that probably wouldn't be enough to monetize it. But yeah, Luke Travers. I mean, who would have ever thought that he'd be one of the 3 guys we talk about on the Cavs during the Summer League? But actually, I forgot one more. We talked about Isaiah Mobley, Ochai, Luke Travers somehow. The other 2-way contracts. The Cavs have 2 2-way contracts this year, just like every other NBA team. RJ Nembhard. I know some people were disappointed that they used one of their 2-way contracts on RJ Nembhard, But then I know I saw a report, I think recently, that they think that he can possibly develop into like a 3-and-D wing. I don't know. Who knows? But what were your thoughts on him during Summer League?
Yeah, I like this guy. I know he right now, that type of player the Cavs have a lot of with Karis LeVert and Collin. Obviously, he's not on their level by any means. I'm just saying there's not a clear path for him. I don't think playing significant minutes this year. However, I like this guy. he's like that combo scorer. He's got good size. He's like 6'3", 6'4". He didn't have any problem scoring. I'll tell you that much in Summer League. And he played with the G League, the Charge last year. That's another guy. I mean, I know we're talking kind of, 15th man at this point, 15th man bouncing around, but RJ Nembhard's a guy who I would love to see if he could increase his playmaking. Maybe he's the kind of guy that could be that backup point guard. We haven't talked about a few of the offseason acquisitions yet, but a couple of those guys, or one in particular, is a 1-year rental. So I love Nembhard. I love watching him with the Charge, and he's a guy I definitely have eyes on because he can score. If he can just increase that playmaking a little bit, man, I think he's a pretty interesting guy to watch.
I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, the Charge being in Cleveland too, I know it's at the Wolfspeed Center, and they don't get that big of a credit, I don't think. That could be some interesting basketball if you just want to go there if the Cavs are away or an off night or something. Go watch Isaiah Mobley, RJ Nembhard, and those guys ball downtown Cleveland. But enough Summer League. I know these free agents, it seems like free agency was in like a dull period with NBA draft and stuff, but we have not been on here to discuss the Cavs free agent signings. So they signed by this guy will be a fan favorite, and I'm not talking Ricky Rubio. This guy will be a fan favorite. He's easy to love. Everyone in Cleveland, I think, will love him besides Moondog because he hates on mascots. Robin Lopez. I absolutely love that signing as a backup center.
Yeah, he's a guy who kind of beat up the Cavs a little bit last year. He played pretty well against them. He was a force and out-rebounded a couple of the Cavs bigs at the time. But I think I heard someone mention, one of my buddies mentioned this too, and I think it hit on true. The Cavs have a lot of different guys, 2 through 4, shooting guard, small forward, power forward. They have a lot of guys that they can kind of plug and play and make a lineup work. Backup point guard and backup center is where they really got beat on last year, and they just frankly didn't have adequate play once some injury started to occur. And so, Robin Lopez being that big guy who can, really, really back up Allen, so you don't have to play Mobley as many minutes at backup center if they're going against a more physical guy. So yeah, I love it. It's a 1-year vet min, and it's got to be good for the locker room. He's known to be a hell of a teammate. So I completely agree with you. Vet min, Robin Lopez, he's going to be great. He might eat some minutes. Like I think with bigger center matchups, they don't want to put Mobley against some of those guys. So I love it. Perfect fit.
Yeah, and like you said, great for the locker room. He's going to be a fan favorite. NBA players and his teammates seem to love him. And another thing is that he's the type of player where, say he'll go out and play 30 minutes. Hopefully this doesn't happen. Say he goes out and plays 30 minutes one night, whether it's giving Jared Allen a day or a game off, or Jared Allen, knock on wood, suffers a short-term injury, or just Jared Allen's in foul trouble, something like that. Robin Lopez will be one of those players that will go out and give you 25, 30 minutes in one game, and the next night be perfectly fine with not playing a single second. So like I said, I mean, I know it's an underrated signing just because it's a backup center, but Robin Lopez, right when I saw that the Cavs signed him, I was like, heck yeah, Kobe, great move. And then on to the next one, who is another fan favorite, who the Cavs had last year, Ricky Rubio. The Cavs had him. He tore his ACL, so they sent him to Indiana in the Karis LeVert trade. He will not be ready to play. I know a lot of reports are saying probably December, and that's when he can start ramping up. So he probably won't be on an NBA court representing the Cavs until mid-January. It's one of those things where, like, Darius Garland and Ricky Rubio, that was the best 2-man lineup analytically for the Cavs last season. But not having him until January, man, that is tough when you think that the season starts right around Halloween, so late October. You're without him for a solid 2.5 months to start the year. I like it, but it's interesting just because, and I know we have to talk about Ricky Rubio before we lead on to the next guy. But in order to sign Ricky Rubio, you had to add a third point guard because Ricky Rubio won't be ready the first 2.5 months of the season.
Yeah, Rubio averaged the highest points per game of his entire career last year, 13.1, almost 7 assists per game. He was great defensively. That's one thing I don't know if Rubio gets enough credit for his defense. I mean, he plays those passing lanes so well. Obviously, unfortunately, till his ACL tear. And when I first heard about it, I was really excited, and then you kind of get grounded in reality in the fact that, okay, this is a guy on the wrong side of 30. He just tore his same ACL that he did years ago. He's going to come back midway through the season. What's it going to look like? So you're going to get some percentage of him back next year at some point. Is he going to be 100% at all next season? It might take him till the whole, 23, 24 season to get all the way back. And then he's obviously another year older. So I love Rubio. I love what he did. Allowing Garland to play off ball with how good of a teammate Rubio was special last year. I just don't know exactly what the Cavs are going to get from him. So that's my only point. It's not a ton of money. It's just more of, is he going to be right when the Cavs need him in crunch time for next season? And I don't know if we know. That's, we Josh and I have heard the expectations for when he's going to come back, but we don't know. So I love watching play. So excited about that. Just hope we can, hopefully he heals, hope he's all right. And it'll be nice to see him go out there and take a little bit of burden off of Garland next season.
Yeah, and I know the analytics loved him, especially playing alongside Darius Garland. Surprisingly, he didn't really shoot that well, though. I think he was only like 35% from the field, 30% from three. I don't know without looking it up. I think it was somewhere around that. So imagine if he possibly gets those percentages up a little bit. The only thing I question is that, like you said, he's probably won't be 100% all season. He won't be playing until mid-January, and then it'll be like, well, this is his training camp, so he technically won't probably be playing until February. And it's one of those things where I love the signing, especially because his teammates obviously love him. He played a huge role in Darius Garland's leap last season. He'll be more of like a player coach while he's not playing, but it's just the fact that the Cavs had to spend another roster spot on a backup point guard because they signed Rubio, which leads us to our next guy, Raul Neto, who
Nice job on the pronunciation really quick. I've heard so many people butcher that, and it drives me nuts. So very good job, Josh. Nice job.
Do people pronounce it Raul?
I've heard Raul and like Raul, and it's been brutal. So A+ job out of you, man. Sincerely.
Hey,
good job.
Hey, I try sometimes. But Raul Neto, I love the signing as a third backup point guard, or I guess as a second back, what I mean, as a third point guard. And the Cavs put themselves in a tough spot. Without Ricky Rubio, you had to have a legitimate backup point guard behind Darius Garland. We all saw what happened when the Cavs didn't have a legitimate backup point guard at the end of last season. It put way too much on Darius Garland's plate. But Neto answers that, and he's also the type of player where once Rubio comes back and his minutes drop from 20-ish, maybe 15, 20-ish, 0 to 5, I think he's going to be fine with that. It's a 1-year contract, and I think he doesn't have any great numbers, but he's the type of player that, let's just say, I wish the Cavs had him last year at the end of the last season over, wow, I can't even think of his name right now. Who was the Cavs backup?
Brandon Goodwin.
I was thinking Brandon Simmons. I was like, no, it's not Brandon Simmons. Yeah, I'm not hating on Brandon Goodwin, but I'd take Neto over him any day. It's just one of those things where it eats up another roster spot. Do you have anything to say about Neto?
Yeah, just in aggregate, the Cavs essentially are replacing Brandon Goodwin, Ed Davis, and Moses Brown with Robin Lopez and Raul Neto, which is a huge, are two huge additions. Veterans, the Cavs needed to get a little bit older, and that's what they did this offseason. Older, but not in a bad way. I don't say older in a bad way. Just real quick on Raul, he's a guy who he's not going to jack up a bunch of unwarranted shots. He's an efficient point guard. He's not explosive, but he's going to get you into the right stuff. I think he's going to be able to get the right guys the ball. I mean, when you have Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, I think he's going to be able to get guys into the right stuff, and he's efficient. I think last year, when he started last year, he shot over 40% from three. So he's also a guy, he didn't have a great shooting year last year, but he had kind of a weird role. I think he's going to have a very consistent role early on in the season, or at least I'd expect he will. And it wouldn't be a shocker at all if he can put together a nice 38, 40% three-point performance while he's playing significant minutes behind Garland. And this one kind of, I guess I'll call it low key, was maybe my favorite signing of all three, because we know we're not going to have Rubio for a few months, and who knows what he's going to look like when he ramps up, as you said. Robin Lopez, not sure how much he's going to play off the jump, but Raul is going to have significant minutes. And I think it was just a perfect signing. Again, 1 year vet min, let's see what they can do and roll from there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And in the way you put it, I mean, Ed Davis, he was the veteran locker room presence. He played very sparingly, but the fact that you replaced Ed Davis with Robin Lopez, who is also a great locker room guy and a fan, like I said, the Cavs fans are going to love him. And then you replaced Brandon Goodwin with Neto. I mean, I know we're talking about like the bottom of the roster when it comes to rotation, but when you have a young core, it's always important to have those good backups too. Because like we saw last year, when injuries come or something, hopefully the Cavs knock on wood, hopefully the Cavs got rid of their bad injury luck last season, and they'll be good to go this year. But you need those guys at the bottom of the rotation, those bottom of the rotation guys, bottom of the roster guys, because if you don't have them, Darius Garland's going to have to go out and play 40+ minutes a night, which no one wants. So I love the three signings. I think if I was questionable about one, I'd be questionable about Ricky Rubio, because he takes up a roster spot. But then again, his teammates love him. He played a huge role in Darius Garland's leap. He'll be a player coach when he's not on the court, I guess. And speaking of roster spots, that brings us to Collin Sexton. And by the way, you have gone all black. I can barely see you. For those of you watching live,
there we go. I don't know what's going on over here. But...
No, you're good. You're good. But so the Cavs signed Neto, Rubio, Robin Lopez with Ochai as their first round draft pick, and with two-way contracts. The Cavs are currently at 15 guaranteed contracts. That does not count the most talked about guy who is not guaranteed to be a Cav next season, Collin Sexton. I'd assume that if things work out and he's back, I can't even assume. They have to get rid of someone, whether it's a trade or a release or something. But I know Collin Sexton, he's somehow one of the most talked, besides like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and those guys. He's one of the most talked about guys around the NBA circles this offseason. I know Chris Fedor, I think I posted the clip a couple weeks ago. He was on with 923 The Fan. He's done stories about it, Cleveland.com. Fedor is reporting that Rich Paul and Collin Sexton, Rich Paul represents Clutch Sports and Collin Sexton, they're looking for a number that starts with a 2 per year. So they're looking for at least $20 million per year. I'd say at least probably 3 years. So they're probably looking for at least 3 years, $60 million. The Cavs, on the other hand, are not going to not bet against them. I can't think of the word again. They're not going to. What am I thinking when you're?
Yeah, not gonna bid against themselves.
Yeah, bid against.
Right?
I cannot think. So the Cavs aren't going to bid against themselves. Collin's a restricted free agent. No one's offered him a contract, or else that would have been noted, because the Cavs would probably match it. So why should the Cavs offer him $20 million a year if they're not going to get bid against themselves? So the rumor right now is that the Cavs are offering between $12 and $15 million a year, and Collin and his team want $20 million a year. So it leaves us with the qualifying offer, which I think is like 8.2 or 8.4. It's 8 something, which that might be what Sexton plays on this season. Which, if he does play on a qualifying contract this season, that means he will be a Cavalier for 8 something million, but he will become a restricted free agent next season. And for those of you unfamiliar, that just happened to Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson bet on himself, which is what Collin would do. And Jalen Brunson just signed like a 4-year, $104 million deal with the New York Knicks. So What are your thoughts, one, on Collin Sexton? Obviously, I think we all want him back, but what would you offer him? I guess is my first question.
Yeah, man, this situation is so complex because you've got so many different factors here. You've got who is the starting two guard on this team. You've got how much flexibility do you want after this season. I think the Cavs want flexibility after this season. And just remember, Kevin Love is in the last year of his deal. Kevin Love makes nearly $30 million this year. So that's a huge slot to have going into the next offseason, going into next season. Saying all that, even with Collin Sexton coming off an injury, I wrote about this a couple weeks ago. I think you just bet on the player. As long as Collin Sexton is going to take a certain type of role, I think he showed he was willing to do that last year. At least last year, I should say. I don't know if he is now, but he showed he was last year. If Collin would be interested in a six-man type of role, he's just so good, man. He is just so good, and I think with too much pressure of Darius here, Collin Sexton's three gotten better, more volume. His playmaking has got a little bit better. He's so tough, and that's what I wrote about. I mean, his work ethic is, I mean, it's got to be top something in the league, top 10 in the league. He's just, I just hate the guy, and he's meant so much to the organization. Really kind of started from the ground, and I would just love to see him win here. So I know a lot of fandom in there. To answer your question, I'd be comfortable somewhere around the $15, $16 million range. The cap is going to go up. It's going up very soon. I don't think that's an outrageous amount to pay what should be one of the best six men in the league if he would accept that type of role. So I'd be willing to do that and lose a little bit of flexibility, moving forward, because I just love the player so much. Back to you, Josh. What
it's one of those things where, like, I get it from both sides. I get Collin Sexton and Rich Paul's side because they know the type of player that Collin can be going forward, and the type of player that he has proven to be in the past prior to last season after he only played 11 games before tearing his meniscus. They want to, I mean, Rich Paul wants to get this guy paid. I completely understand that. So $20 million, okay, I get it. But then I look at the Cavs, and why would they give him $20 million? There's literally, like I said earlier, there's no one else bidding against the Cavs right now. If they were, they would have offered him an offer sheet, and the Cavs would have to match it, just like the Suns just did with DeAndre Ayton. So, like, if you're the Cavs, why budge on your number to go up only to outbid yourself when no one else is bidding? It's almost like if you're on eBay and you really want this autograph card, and the card has, like, let's say the card has 2 months left on the bidding. You're on like a month in, and you're the only, it has one bid and you're it. Why would you bid any higher if you had the highest bid right now? Don't the Cavs literally have the highest bid on Collin Sexton? It's just the fact that it doesn't reach that Collin Sexton mark. So it's a tough spot. I think I would go 18 million a year, which then again, the Cavs are literally outbidding themselves. So why would they do that? 18 million a year. And if Collin wants that $20 million number, have incentives in there and have it be like, I don't know if you can do points per game. I don't know if you'd want to do points per game, because then at some points he might just be all about getting that money. But maybe have like a games incentive or a minutes incentive, or just have different incentives in that contract to get it up to 20 million a year. So have it be a $18 million base salary and then $2 million in incentives every season. That way both people are happy. Collin's happy because if he plays every game like he thinks he should, he'll be paid $20 million, and the Cavs are happy because they still have that security blanket in case something happens. Do you agree with it, like an incentive laden deal like that?
Yeah, completely. And I think with that, as you mentioned earlier, the Cavs have too many players right now for them to technically just sign him straight up and have him on board. So they'd have to get rid of somebody. And I think we mentioned it already, but the Cavs are really close to, being in the tax and in the additional tax. I think it's around 15 million. Anything above that, they're getting close, right?
I was just going to interrupt you. The Cavs right now, I think it's like a little above 15 million. So above the tax line, that means that Dan Gilbert, which by the way, he's the second richest owner in sports, but it's not about being above the tax line and paying more tax revenue. It's starting that clock. The Cavs do not want to start that repeater tax clock. The more you're in the tax for more years, the more that costs you. So say like right now, if it's like if every dollar over the tax line, it costs the Cavs like $2, 3 years from now, it could cost them $4 or $5. So they don't want to start that repeater tax because let's be honest. I know we're Cavs fans. We want them to win the NBA Finals every year. The Cavs aren't NBA Finals. The Cavs are not. If the Cavs make it to the NBA Finals, that would be a miracle this year. Let's be honest. So why start that repeater tax if you're not an NBA Finals contender yet, if that makes sense? So they want to push off that clock as much as possible. It's not about the millions of dollars that Dan Gilbert would have to pay. They just do not want to start that clock. But then, like you said, if they bring back Collin Sexton, that puts them at 16 players, and they're only allowed 15. So they would have to get rid of someone. I'm assuming it would either be Jetty or Dylan Windler, and they'd probably have to attach a second-round pick with that for a team to take on that contract. But that would also free up like $7 to $8 million. I think for Jetty, it would be like $7.5 to $8 million. For Dylan Windler, it would be like $4 or $5 million.
Yep.
Which would also mean that Collin Sexton could sign for more. So it's just all. It's going to be interesting to see. It's looking like right now Collin Sexton's going to take the qualifying offer, but if he actually resigns, it'll be interesting to see what the number is. If he resigns for long, like a 2, 3, 4 million or 4-year deal rather than just a qualifying offer, and also just how much he signs for. I'm really interested to see if he doesn't take the QO, how much he signs for per year.
Yeah, just to complicate things even more, I mean, it was reported Darius Garland and Collin Sexton went on vacation together. They're buds, and so it's one of those things where, okay, probably made Evan Mobley pretty happy drafting his older brother this year. Darius wants Collin back. He's been vocal about that in the past with some comments. He says, "Yeah, I want to play with Collin." So, man, they're just in a tough spot because you just said, I think the most important thing of this entire podcast is the Cavs are not winning the championship next year. I think everyone would agree with that. NBA odds would agree with that. They have like the 10th best odds in the East to win the Eastern Conference Finals next year. So with that, the goal, at least to me, being a fan, the goal to me is to win a championship. Every season isn't a failure, but the goal is to win the championship. And so I think there's been a lot of talk about what's the next move. Internal growth is the next move for this Cavs team. At some point, it's going to make sense for them to strike and go big. A lot of teams right now are going big across the league, trading 4 first-round picks for Rubio Gobert, trading a bunch of first-round picks and pick swaps for DeJounte Murray. There's so many examples right now.
We could talk about that Gobert deal for hours, I feel like.
Yes, we could.
Gosh. But continue. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yes, we could. No. But yeah, it just feels like the Cavs aren't yet at that point. So would having Collin Sexton play on the qualifying offer and just having his money clear next year, does that put him in a better position to kind of go big splash next offseason? Or does signing Collin, if he would agree to it, to like a $15-16 million deal for 3 years, I don't know how other teams would look at that. Is he not an asset at that point? Would you have to attach stuff with him? I'm just thinking of scenarios, but I think of, the reason I'm talking through this is I think at some point in the next year or two, the Cavs have to kind of push and go all in. As long as their internal guys continue to get better and better, they're going to need to make that big move. And so I think it's some of what complicates this Sexton situation is how does that impact their all-in move. So I don't even know what point or what thought I'm trying to make here, Josh, other than there's just so many layers to this Collin Sexton deal, man. I don't know.
So DeJounte Murray, have we talked about this? I think we have, but yeah, we definitely have. I remember discussing it. DeJounte Murray he is probably going to be a great fit for the Hawks. The Hawks better hope that he is a great fit for the Hawks because they give up, 3 first-round picks for a guy that's been an all-star once, and it was because he was an all-star replacement. But just the fact – Rudy Gobert, by the way, 4 first-round picks, the 2022 NBA draft first-round picks, so basically 5 first-round picks plus 2 players. That is bonkers to me. There's a reason why the New York Knicks might have to trade at least 5 first-round picks for Donovan Mitchell. I mean, I feel like NBA draft picks are super undervalued right now, and it's really, really strange. I don't know why. But it's like the Cavs, it would have been nice if they could have gotten DeJounte Murray. I know that was a pipe dream for some of us. Actually, no. A pipe dream for Seth is Donovan Mitchell. But it's the Cavs are in a tough spot right now because due to the Stepien rule, if they were to trade, I think 3 or 4 first-round picks, they wouldn't have a first-round pick until 2031. If you're going to trade basically all of your first-round picks they would have a first-round pick before then, but they wouldn't be able to trade any first-round picks until 2031.
Yep, there you go. Yep.
If you're going to trade your first-round picks so you literally cannot trade a first-round pick for 8 years, you better hope that guy puts you over the hill. And DeJounte Murray isn't – I mean, the Cavs could have gotten DeJounte Murray. That would have filled the 2 hole. They'd still need a freaking 3-and-D win. So why would you trade that many first-round picks for a guy that literally doesn't fill your biggest weakness right now? Rudy Gobert is another question, but I don't even know where – see, you just said that too. I don't know where I was going with this. Oh, put in all your chips in the basket.
That big swing. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So the Cavs, I mean, Brandon Ingram was also a pipe dream, but the New Orleans Pelicans are looking like the real deal. So there's no shot that they trade Ingram. It's just like if the Cavs are going to put all their chips in the basket, it has to be for a 3. That literally the Cavs' biggest weakness, it has to fill that. I don't know who's out there right now that would fill that, honestly, in the NBA. That's like trade worthy. Donovan Mitchell, yes, that would have been another 2 guard. But even if you get Donovan Mitchell or DeJounte, you still don't have a 3 that has proven himself. And that's what we hope. Me, Seth, Cavs fans, the Cavs players, everyone in Cleveland, that Isaac Okoro, Ochai, or Karras prove this year that they can be that 3 guy. Even if it's like a lower, I know some guys say that those are all 2 guards. But if they can just fill that 3 hole, I mean, that's what's going to be interesting. And we can talk about this in another podcast because we're going to need plenty of topics this offseason. But just like, there's so many different storylines going into the season. Obviously, Evan Mobley, the big 3 of Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Darius Garland, you need them to carry the team. That's obvious. You also need them to develop. They're still super young. But like, you need Isaac Okoro, Ochai, or Karras to develop or progress enough to prove that they belong, if that makes sense. If you can find like a 4th piece in your young core that already consists of 3, if you can find a 4th prior to next offseason and then just like go from there, that would be huge. There's just like so many other than just like winning games, there's so many different storylines just all season. That's what I know. It's only mid-July 20th. Man, I'm like stuttering right now. But there's so many, like, I'm just so excited for this Cavs season just because there's so many different ways it can go, and there's so many different things that you can focus on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this season, I think, is going to be harder for some fans than they realize. And when I say harder, I mean this year is still a huge evaluation year. Last year was an evaluation year like, are these guys any good? Are the young guys any good? Well, we checked the box there. 3, the young guys are really, really, and they're your core. This year is an evaluation of who else are they going to take along on this ride? You know, who's that 4th, 5th, 6th guy? And it sounds weird to say it's an evaluation year because they were in the top 2 or 3 seeds for the majority of the season last year. Like, they had tremendous success. But I don't want to like scare any fans off, but I will say I think it's another evaluation period, and I think the Cavs are going to learn a whole lot next year. Knock on wood, if the key guys stay healthy, it's going to be another evaluation period to figure out, is it the right time to take that big swing, that big consolidation move? Do they need to trade some of those future first round picks and these good young players, but maybe not good enough to go after somebody who may not be happy in their situation? So, you know, they're going to, the front office, their job to go figure that out. But man, you said it. Lauri Markkanen, Karis LeVert, Ochai Agbaji, Collin Sexton, if he is re-signed, it's just such a big year for those guys. Obviously, the core three, Cavs fans know what we have. It's really going to be all about those other guys and who's going to stick around with that trio to make a push at this thing over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I know Carter Rodriguez and Justin Rowan on the Chase Down discussed it too. There's a good chance that even at full strength for the majority of the season, the Cavs might not win as many games as they did last season, but the Cavs fans could be happier than they were at the end of last season, if that makes sense. One, the East is freaking good. Atlanta got better. If KD and Kyrie stay in Brooklyn, I mean, I know we can discuss Vegas win totals, but if you go by win totals, the Cavs are tied for 7th in the East with the Chicago Bulls. So, which would make them a play-in candidate again. But it's just like the East is stacked. So the Cavs, it's almost like the SEC. I know I said this to Seth prior to this podcast. It's almost like the SEC in football every year, where like they have some really good teams, but like the middle tier just beat up on each other. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, a team like Chicago, if Lonzo Ball somehow, who is still recovering from his torn meniscus, or it just like that middle tier of teams in the East is just beat up on each other all year. And you just hope that one, the Cavs win more games than they lose, and two, in those dogfights, they stay healthy for the most part. Because, I mean, not only do you have like the top of the East, which is like the Milwaukee's, Miami's, Brooklyn, Philly. I'm leaving out one. Toronto. I'm leaving out one more, and I can't think. Oh, Boston. Boston, who's projected to win the most games in the regular season in the entire NBA. But like, not only do you have those top teams, but then like the Detroit Pistons are going to be much better than they have been previously, and just like Orlando might still be not that good, and like, but they have Paulo, the number one pick. It's just like on a nightly basis, there's going to be no easy wins. I mean, I guess it's professional sports, so I guess you can always say that. But just the East is so good that it's going to be hard for the Cavs to have as much early success, even at full strength, as they did last season. And just one, be prepared for that. And two, don't just look at record. Because this season, yes, the Cavs want to make the playoffs. I hope they make the playoffs this year because they need to in order to help progress and develop and be in a playoff series. But like, it's so much more important than that. And like Seth said, it comes down to like not only other players besides the big three finding their identity, but also JB Bickerstaff and Kobe Altman being able to be like, that's one of our guys going forward. Besides the big three, I couldn't tell you another player that's like, that's one of our guys going forward. And you need at least one or two more of those heading into next season, I'd say.
Yeah, you're spot on. The I won't take us too far off this sidetrack because I know we're coming up on an hour, but just really quick on the draft pick, and one reason why I'm excited about Agbaji, and then one reason why I was hoping someone else would fall to them. So Agbaji really can potentially, if he can earn some rotational minutes, open up just a beautiful spacing lineup. If you think about Darius Garland, Agbaji at the 2, Lauri at the 3, Mobley 4, out 5, or of course you could throw Love in there if you really wanted a space. But just what Agbaji can potentially do at the 2 and just give spacing to Garland and Allen and Mobley's pick and roll game could be awesome. However, I will say the reason why I wrote about and we talked about Ousmane Dieng a little bit during the draft is, man, if this team decides they need to go out and take a swing for that big playmaking 3 type guy, it's so much better from a resource asset perspective to draft that guy and have him making $1 or $2 million a year on his rookie deal than it is to pay the price right now, which is just seems to be like 6 first-round picks and like 2 pick swaps. So that's one thing I had to mention just while we talked a little bit of draft on this one is, man, there was one guy in this draft, Usman Jang, who I was really looking forward to because it's so rare to get that guy. And if you trade a team for that type of guy, that 3-and-D guy, who, I mean, that's what everyone's looking for right now. It's just an absolute king's ransom, but it is what it is. We're moving on, and very excited to see what Abaji can do at the 2 and the 3 this year. Give them that spacing that really no one could give them outside of Lowry, who's also 7 feet and not extremely quick.
Yeah, I mean, and like I know we talked about this earlier, but just Ochai, what he showed in Summer League, just like his off-ball movement and stuff, I'm really excited to see how he plays in the NBA game when he has Darius. I mean, even in the lineup with like Darius, Evan Mobley, Lowry, and Jared Allen, and I'm missing one. Who am I missing? And even say Isaac Okoro or something. I mean, I'm excited to see how he looks with NBA guys. Is the point I'm trying to make. Just, I know people said that he was old. He was a 4-year guy at Kansas, but then again, I mean, Bill Self. He played under Bill Self for 4 years. He knows how to win. He was a national champion this past April and was the Final Four most value. I forget what they call it. Final Four most. It's not the Final Four MVP. Whatever it was.
Most outstanding, right? I think that's
yes, MOP. Yes. But yeah, just he knows. I know this is cliche, but he knows how to win. He knows how to make winning plays. He's one of the players early on that I'm really excited to watch and just see how he meshes. I hope JB allows him to play with the start. I'm not saying that he should be in the starting lineup. I am not saying that whatsoever. I just hope that JB allows him to play with the starting lineup guys, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Darius, at least allow him to play with Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen, and then just throw. I mean, even if it's Lowry, I mean, imagine the spacing in that lineup if it's Lowry and Ochai out there, and you have Ochai moving off the ball and 3 7-footers in there. I know we can. I feel like I can discuss Ochai for hours and hours, but I'm just very excited about that rookie. And what were we talking about? Oh, the East, and just like trying to figure out. Not only the Cavs, I guess, have an identity. It's like Tower City, 3 7-footers, and just, I mean, they're young, but they just need to figure out more. JB definitely needs to he needs to figure out, hopefully in a playoff series, to make adjustments and stuff like that. And 2, just figure out his guys. I mean, besides his big 3, he doesn't know who his guys are going to be. And that's why that is the most important thing about this season. And everything else is just a bonus. And hopefully that bonus includes the NBA playoffs.
Yep. And you said it already. We're going to talk ad nauseum throughout training camp about lineups. But, man, one thing that I'm very excited about is just competition. Like, I think the last 2 years, Okoro was kind of handed that starting shooting guard role. And nothing against Okoro. You and I like him. We've talked about him. He's young. Okoro is younger than a certain number of rookies that were just drafted. This kid is still so young. But he's not handed the starting shooting guard role because there's no one else. You know, now there's Karis LeVert, there's Isaac Okoro, there's Abaji. So that's one thing that I'm excited about to see. And again, we're going to talk about is just, you know, Cream's going to rise to the top. They've got all summer going into the fall to evaluate these guys and put out the best 5. And can't wait to see how JB deploys. But, man, there's some real deal competition without Collin Sexton even joining the fold. So that's one thing that I think should give Cavs fans some hope and some promises. There's going to be a whole lot of competition this summer and fall, which, I mean, that's what should be happening right now with a young team. So can't wait to watch that unfold.
I completely agree. Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm really looking forward to the season just because, one, it offers so much. Last season offered so much promise, but I'm looking forward to seeing some of these kids. They are. Darius Garland still. Well, I guess he's not a kid, but just looking forward to some of these young guys, how they play with expectations on their shoulders after the last season. Now that they're going to have expectations, and I really want to. I hope the Cavs make the playoff. I know this is in next April, so this is far off. I just want to hope the Cavs win enough games this year to, 1, prove that they belong, and 2, just to be in a playoff series, because I just want to see how the team reacts to being in a 7-game series. I mean, it's a huge difference between regular season and a playoff series. We all know that. So just I guess I'm just really looking forward to the season. I know it's still far off, it seems like, although this year is flying by, so I'm sure late October is going to be here before we know it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything else to say. Do you have any final thoughts, I guess?
Just to be, typical podcasty guy, A- off season. Jerseys are sweet. Love the free agent signs, and the draft pick looks great with Abaji. So good job, Cavs. A- from me.
A-. Wow. It's hard to. I would say with given, like, they didn't make a huge free agent signing, so like that would be like A+. I'd say like B+, A- for what I mean. They didn't really have much there. They had the mid-level exception who they used on Rubio, and then they had the vet minimums. So I guess given their salary cap situation, they made. I know I questioned the Rubio signing just because it costs basically 2 roster spots, but that is what it is. I guess I'll give it an A- too, and hopefully that turns into an A- season as well, because I'm perfectly fine with the Cavs having an A- season.
That's right. That's right. And one last nugget. I know we're wrapping. One last piece, Josh. You hit on this, I think, but this is just kind of a heads up for Cavs fans too. Is that Caris LeVert deal? If the Cavs make the playoffs, so not the play-in, but the playoffs. So if they make the top 8, their first round playoffs, okay, win a game. Their first round pick next year goes to the Indiana Pacers. And that's why what Josh brought up was so important about the Stepien rule and needing to have, those first round picks, not being able to trade them. So that's one thing to watch as the Cavs go throughout this season. It's a pretty big deal if they make the playoffs or not based off of that trade. So all hypotheticals we can get into, but just a nugget that we wanted to pass along. If the Cavs don't make the playoffs this year, then it turns into 2 seconds the following year. So that would be 2 seconds in 24 if it doesn't convey the first round pick in 23. So just a heads up.
So in short, the Cavs will not have a first round pick next year.
That's for damn sure. Yep, that's it. And that's all I have, Josh. I'm just trying to drop some nuggets on the way out.
You're good. That's
come
good.
up with some better stuff on the way. Yeah.
You're good. So hopefully for the Cavs and us and all the rest of the Cavs fans, the Cavs don't have a first round pick next year. And by the way, the Stepien rule, in case you guys haven't Googled it while you're listening, NBA, I forget. I think it was the Cavs. It wasn't Ted Stepien.
Ted.
It wasn't Cleveland. So this is due to the Cavs. So they've made 2 rules, because wasn't there a rule made about a player getting traded and bought out and then coming back to the team that he got traded from, because it happened as Zydrunas Ilgauskas, and now there's a rule about that too. So shout out to the Cavs for just forcing the NBA to create rules. But the Stepien rule is that you cannot trade, or you can't go back-to-back years without a first-round pick. So if in all these deals, I mean, the deal that just sent Rudy Gobert to Minnesota, if it included a first-round pick in back-to-back years, it's because that team has other picks from other teams in that first round. It doesn't have to be your first-round pick. It just has to be a first-round pick. So that's why the Cavs, if they were to trade, like, say, 3 first-round picks for DeJounte Murray, it would have to be every other year, which means that they wouldn't be able to trade a pick until 2030 or 2031, whatever it is. So, yeah, the Stepien rule is just makes it tougher to trade first-round picks, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, even though it seems like freaking teams are doing it left and right. It's like, it's one of those Oprah Winfrey things, like, you get a first-round pick, and you get a first-round pick, and you get a first-round pick. That's how Utah, I think, literally has like 25 first-round picks in the next 5 years. That's what it seems like.
Danny Ainge doing his thing. I don't know how he does it, but
and he has so many first-round picks that I can't wait for him to be like almost acquire a player and then not do it, just like he did in Boston.
Yeah, rinse, repeat. Yep.
But I guess somehow, no matter what, we can literally discuss the Cavs jerseys and it will somehow go for over an hour on this podcast. We can't do a podcast without going an hour. It's crazy. By the way, I don't know what else I was to say. I don't know what I just said, by the way. But I know I already asked you, but anything else you want to say, Seth?
No, it was great getting back. I'm excited to kind of get in the swing of things, and I'm hoping that you and I will be dropping kind of an emergency pod as soon as we get some Collin Sexton news. So thanks all for listening, and ready to go, as soon as we get some additional news about Collin Sexton.
Yeah, so just like we have this offseason, probably not next week, but the week after, just like every other week, although it's been almost 4 weeks just because there hasn't really been, besides the NBA draft, which we were on here live, there hasn't really been much else besides that. And I guess 2 weeks from now, there might really not be much else unless Collin Sexton signs. So we will most likely be back with you, not next week, but the week after at some point. If Collin Sexton signs an extension, which I do not see happening in the next 2 weeks, we will most likely, it won't be like an emergency podcast, but we'll be on here probably that day or the following day to discuss Collin Sexton. Until then, thank you, Derpy Gaming, Adrian Mitchell. I know you guys commented. I completely forgot to put your comments up and whatever, but thank you for commenting. Thank you for listening live. If you're listening live, if not, if you're listening to wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, we appreciate each and every one of you. Until then, about 2 weeks from now, and as always, go Cavs.
Go Cavs.